Hey guys, this is Justin at the Survivor Review, and with Godzilla King of the Monsters coming out soon, a movie that not only am I super excited for, but also, aside from Godzilla, includes 3 classic kaiju monsters, and of course talking about Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidorah. I'm going to take a look back at the 3 films that introduced these characters, starting with the classic from 1956, Rodan. Now, Rodan was released just 2 years after Godzilla, so still in the early days of Japanese giant monster movies, and is also a historic one for them because it is the first one released in color. Also, it introduced us to Rodan, which has become one of the classic Godzilla monsters. Even Toho lists him as one of the top 5 most important monsters, next to Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, and Mechagodzilla. The film is directed by Ishiro Honda, who directed the original Godzilla film, and would later go on to direct many more kaiju movies down the line. And this movie is a lot of fun. It's very entertaining, despite being a strangely put together movie, because it's not exactly what you'd expect from the movie. You go into Rodan thinking, okay, the whole movie's gonna be Rodan flying around destroying the city and the military has to stop him. It is, for the climax of the movie, basically. Because the first 2 acts of this movie is a different kind of movie. What's interesting about the plot structure of this film is that all 3 acts are kind of different movies in themselves. The first act, the movie basically begins in this small mining village, and people are going to work, like nothing's wrong, then all of a sudden these couple of miners go missing. And they end up going looking for him, and they find a dead body. And so they don't know who killed this guy. And the main suspect in this death is the other miner who's gone missing named Goro. And everyone suspects that he did it because him and the miner who's been killed have not been very friendly. They've been getting in a lot of fights lately. They've been seen fighting and arguing. So they all assume that it's him, like that's why he's missing, because he killed the guy and ran away. But our main character, who also happens to be dating Goro's sister, doesn't believe it. He was like, I want to wait until we find him and we figure stuff out before, blindly accusing him of this murder. So the first act of this film is kind of like a murder mystery set in this mine, where we don't know who killed him. They find the dead body and they say he's been slashed by some very sharp objects. Who could have done that? What could have done that? Was it Goro? Was it someone else? And that's kind of the first act of the movie. That's what we follow. Then we get to the second act, we're introduced into who's been doing the murder, which is these giant insects named Meganulon, who are running amok in the mine and killing a bunch of people. Every time someone goes down in the mine to investigate, they get killed. So they're kind of causing a high body count, and so the middle half of this movie basically becomes like a 50s, atomic age monster movie where a giant insect is going around killing people. And that's kind of what's going on, and they have to try to defeat these guys. Now, even though there's no giant monster flying around destroying a city, these first 2 acts are still pretty good. I do really like them. That being said, initially, I wasn't big on them. The first time I saw this movie, and actually the first couple of viewings, I don't know, I wasn't too into it, and I was kind of like, oh, this movie's a little uneven with, what it's trying to do with the story-wise, But on rewatching it for this video, I did enjoy it quite a bit. There is a good amount of suspense, a good amount of atmosphere, and it plays off differently. It doesn't feel like your typical, Toho monster movie, because it's not that. Like I said, it's basically a 50s, B monster movie where there's giant insects going around attacking people, and it was pretty good. It was really well handled. It has a couple darker moments compared to the later Showa era films, so there's cool little darker elements and some good suspense, some good horror, and I found it fun. It was pretty entertaining. It's a very different kind of movie, very smaller scale than your typical Toho movie, which are normally huge and just crazy stuff happening, but this movie does get to that, but that comes later. Because while trying to destroy the Meganulon, our hero character, played by Kenji Sahara, who would go on to appear in countless other Toho monster movies, countless Godzilla movies, I could be wrong, but I think he's the actor who's appeared in the most Godzilla films. I'm not so sure, I think I could be wrong on that. But he's been in a lot of these movies, and this was his first starring role. After going to investigate there, he gets lost after the mine kind of collapses, and he gets lost in all this rubble and everything, and later is found, but he has amnesia, he doesn't remember anything that's happening. So while our hero's trying to recover from his amnesia, all of a sudden another threat comes in. All of a sudden, planes and stuff keep getting taken out from the sky. Something keeps rushing at them at supersonic speed and killing them, and we don't know what that is. We don't know what's going on. At one point, this couple are taking pictures near like the mine where it collapsed and everything, and all of a sudden someone flies over them so fast that it ends up killing them. Well, they recover a picture from that camera, and the creature on there looks slightly like a pterodon. So they kind of put two and two together because it's, you know, it's Japan and it's a monster movie, so they're like, okay, well, it's probably a pterodon creature going around. And it turns out, well, it is. It's Rodan. Because at one point, our main hero ends up getting his memory back and reveals that once he was stuck under the mines, he came across this like hive kind of area, not really, but you know, whatever, area where all the meganulons were at, and all of a sudden there's this giant egg there that hatches and reveals Rodan. And Rodan just starts picking up the meganulon like they're nothing, like they're just food, they're just worms eating them, and then he flies off. And that's what like traumatized our main hero. So now it turns into exactly what you'd expect. The military has to gather their forces and try to destroy Rodan before he destroys the city. Now, when you get to that last half, to the big Kaiju monster movie, because that's what the third act is. Third act is the Kaiju movie portion of the film. That stuff is great. Like, Rodan is awesome. Some of the flying shots of him are a little, like, stiff. You know, but when he actually lands and he becomes the guy in the suit, actually portrayed by Haruo Nakajima, who played Godzilla in the original film, that stuff is great. The Rodan costume looks great, probably the best we've looked in like any of the movies, and that stuff's a lot of fun. And some of the best miniature work that they've done, like the detail on some of these miniatures is great. The destruction is very well handled, and it's a lot of fun. It's exactly what you came to the movie for, and you get it perfectly. And in fact, at one point, there's even two Rodans, because another egg hatches and another Rodan flies out, so now there's two Rodans destroying the city, you know, and it's a lot of fun, very entertaining. There's some really good aerial scenes in the movie with like the military ships going after Rodan that are very well done and very unique for this kind of movie, because that's something you didn't really see in like the Godzilla films and stuff like that. They're really well directed. I feel like Akira was like really good at doing these types of films, and he did a great job on this one. And even though it's a very different type of movie than Godzilla, there's still stuff in here that harkens back to that film. There's a lot of imagery that's similar, like after the first time Rodan attacks the city and it's just a shot at night. Just like in silent of the city in flames, which is such an eerie shot, and it's the same exact shot that Ishiro Honda did in the original Godzilla, but it looks really cool in here with seeing it in color, actually. And there's a lot of kind of like similarities between the two films, even though they're very different story-wise, very different. Aside from a lot of the cheesiness in the movie, there are certain moments that do harken back to kind of the melancholy like tone of the original Godzilla at times. The characters in the movie are your typical Toho monster movie characters. You know, they're not great, they're nothing special. It's fun seeing some familiar faces from other Godzilla films in there, you know, popping up. I like seeing that, but they're okay. Our main hero's okay, even though I just said the characters aren't that great, so this probably shouldn't annoy me. One of the things that does annoy me a little bit is with our main character, that I feel like he kind of just gets lost in the shuffle in the plot, because like once he gets amnesia, he's not really doing anything, and by the time he gets his like memory back, then we get to the third act Kaiju movie, where the movie just focuses on military trying to destroy him, so our character just kind of, you know, gets forgotten about there. His like role kind of gets less and less of importance as it goes on, which is kind of weird, but that's a minor gripe, because in the long run, that's not why we're here, and that's not what makes these movies memorable, you know? Rodan is just an awesome character, even though he doesn't have any special abilities for anything, even though there is a couple shots in the movie where he kind of is using this like, he's like blowing this like breath and like destroying stuff, which never really comes into play in later movies. But aside from that, he doesn't have any special abilities. He's just like a giant pterodon who, of course, was awakened due to atomic tests. So that's what they assume it is, from atomic nuclear tests. You know, of course, what else could it have been? You know, this is still the 50s, so that's how Rodan came back to life. But that said, he's still really cool, though I do have to admit, I feel he does kind of work better as a supporting character with other monsters, because all he does is just fly around, you know, destroying stuff in his wake, so it's more entertaining to see him fighting other creatures. But that he still works in this movie, I still like that. And then you get to the ending of the film, which, I mean, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie, but you know, it's been around for a while, so I think I'm okay to spoil this. The ending gets like really like sad, actually. And like really, like you feel really bad for Rodan at the end because two Rodans are hiding in this volcano essentially. So they just like bombard it with missiles and just erupt the volcano, scaring them out. And one of the Rodans ends up actually dying and gets stuck in the flames and dying. And the other Rodan gets up and goes to fly away, but doesn't want to leave the other Rodan behind and doesn't want to go on without him. So he just flies under there and dies as well. That's so screwed up, and it's a very kind of different turn that you weren't really expecting from this movie. You're expecting it to be like triumphant that they defeated Rodan, but by the end you're like, oh, damn it, humans, why'd you have to do that? But overall though, Rodan is a very entertaining monster movie. Like I said, it's a little strange because all three acts are kind of like different movies. You know, and you're probably going into this expecting it all just to be Rodan destroying the city, but it's not that. It's not that until the last half. But those first two acts are fun in just kind of like a B-50s monster movie type of way. Like I said, it feels very different than other Toho monster movies because it's not as big or as grand. And sure, it doesn't have as much going for it story-wise as other films would later do, but it still works. It's still effective and still very entertaining for what it is. Like I said, it's good to know like, what kind of movie is going in so you're not expecting giant monsters the entire time, but it is a very fun, entertaining like monster movie, and it's definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of these movies. So that's all I have to say about Rodan, and I'll be back next time to talk about another giant monster who will appear in Godzilla King of the Monsters. But until then, I'll talk to you guys later.